from my heart and from my hand. Why don't people understand my intention?
In this edition of CoopDojo Science, we're looking at whether playing violent video games cooperatively can reduce prejudice. With another Call of Duty game being released this month, we were interested in what psychological research has been conducted on previous Call of Duty titles. We were pleasantly surprised to find this study published in the journal Psychology of Violence. The researchers explored whether playing violent video games cooperatively reduces negative feelings towards outgroup members. Outgroup members are people who belong to groups we don't belong to. In-group members are people who belong to groups we belong to. For example, if you're in the Covenant, then Elites and Brutes are in-group members, and Flood and Master Chief are out-group members. Psychologists have long been interested in resolving conflicts between groups, and it looks like playing violent video games might be one solution. Research on in-groups and out-groups dates back 50 years. In one early study, children arriving at a summer camp were divided into two groups. Once they bonded with their group, they were introduced to the other group through a series of competitions. The two groups quickly learned to dislike each other on and off the field. The boys vandalized each other's cabins and apparently stole some poor kid's pants. Reuniting the two groups proved difficult. What eventually worked was getting the two groups to work together towards a common goal. Getting the kids to work together to set up a campsite or move a stalled truck eventually united the two camps. The takeaway? Shared goals reduce conflict between groups. The researchers wondered if that could happen with video games too. In the study, Canadian college students were asked to play Call of Duty Black Ops with another player who was in another location. The students did not see each other enter the lab and could not speak to each other while playing. They were either told the other player was a fellow Canadian, which was true, or was an American student, which was not true. Players battled zombies for 12 minutes with their partner. Participants were then asked to do two things. First, they rated their attitudes towards Americans. Second, they selected a video that their partner would have to watch which elicited either positive, negative, or neutral moods. If cooperative play made gamers less prejudiced, then players should be no more likely to assign an American the negative video than a fellow Canadian. The researchers found what they expected. Playing a game with someone whom you think belongs to a group you dislike leads you to dislike that group less. Participants were not any more likely to make the American watch an unpleasant video than a fellow Canadian. Weirdly, when the Canadians thought they were playing with an American, their attitudes towards both Canadians and Americans improved. Even more weirdly, playing with a fellow Canadian did not seem to improve attitudes towards fellow Canadians. The takeaway seems to be, playing a game with someone you think is from another culture makes you like everyone even more. As interesting as this study was, there were some important limitations that we noticed. First, the participants couldn't talk to each other. This was necessary in the study to ensure that players would not realize their partner was Canadian and not American, but it does limit the findings. While the researchers suggest that games may be useful for resolving intergroup conflict, that may only be true if A, the players can't speak to each other, and B, the players are actually from the same group. Playing a game with actual outgroup members who can speak to you might not be as beneficial. Second, we know Americans aren't the most popular folks in the world, but we can't imagine that the negative feelings between Canadians and Americans rival the negative feelings between other groups. Actually, at the start of the study, Canadians reported liking Americans as much as they liked other Canadians. So it is difficult to say that playing video games resolved intergroup conflict when there didn't seem to be any conflict to resolve. Finally, the same theory that predicts cooperation should improve relations between groups suggests that competition should worsen those relationships. Violent video games may lead to worsening relationships between groups when played competitively. So, violent video games may improve relations between groups depending on how the game is played. We like the idea of cooperative gaming being used to resolve conflicts. Shared goals reduce conflict between groups. There's no reason those shared goals can't be fighting hordes of zombies, rescuing kidnapped princesses, or finding lost treasure. Given the endless debate about the relationship between violent video games and aggression, it's nice to see a study exploring the positive effects of violent gaming also. While we think the findings may be limited due to the way the study was designed, we're hoping to see more research like this in the future.